So before I go any further, I think I really need to say thank you. Not two words you associate with Ofsted, are they? The words thank you. Two other words maybe you might think about when you think about Ofsted, but thank you for everything you've done over the past 18 months, keeping music education going in our schools. And we know it's not been easy, but the creativity you've shown, the generosity you've shown, performing online, teaching online, and in some cases persuading your head teacher to give over the school hall to become the music room for 6 months so you can give socially distanced music lessons in school is fantastic, so thank you. I want to say thank you to your professional associations, the ISM, Music Mark and the MTA, for the leadership they've shown over the past year and a half. You've all been fantastic, so thank you sincerely. I'm sure, like me, you've gone round this room today, this expo, and seen the wealth of resources available to you and your pupils. And the words on the screen I've seen in the short time I've been here used to describe many of the programs, the resources, the schemes, the instruments that are being put on offer to you today. But I've got to say, colleagues, there's a huge elephant in the room, or should I say, elephant in the expo. Because as you've shown over the past 18 months, the most innovative, imaginative, intuitive, and the most musical resources in this hall are sitting right in front of me today. Because without the experts' knowledge, the expert behaviour of the music teacher, no resource is of any worth whatsoever. It takes a music teacher. A printed or published scheme of work cannot listen to what the pupils are doing. A published scheme of work does not respond to the unexpected response from the pupil. It can't celebrate what the pupil does well. That's the job of the music teacher, and I think where we put ourselves at great peril if we try to pretend, as some schemes of work say, and I quote, anyone can teach this. That's not true. It takes a music teacher to teach it. And so it's really important, that's the first message from me today, to make sure we don't deprofessionalise and devalue the role of the teacher. So thank you for everything you're doing. And it's why sometimes it's a bit puzzling when you read about these published schemes and other resources and training where it says we're guaranteed to meet Ofsted's requirements. We don't guarantee and don't recommend or endorse a scheme of work, even the modern music curriculum we don't endorse, because it's down to the teacher. When we judge in schools, we judge the intent, and that can be the curriculum and the scheme of work, but we also look at the implementation, and that is a human thing. The implementation by the teacher, and then we look at the impact there is on the young person's musical progress. That is so important. And so that's why we don't endorse individual schemes of work, even though some of them have got some really good, innovative, imaginative ideas. It's the teacher that's the linchpin to delivering that curriculum. And I can't say that strongly enough, because you are valued as music teachers. Having said that though, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a curriculum. You've got to have intent. And we in Ofsted say that we're looking for intention and intent which is equal to or exceeding the ambition set in the national curriculum. Whether or not you're an academy or a state school, a maintained school, free school, independent school, we are still saying that ambition of the national curriculum is our base mark. And we're looking to see whether you actually meet and exceed the expectation. So let's have a look at the national curriculum. Most people will be familiar with those statements there, the aims. And they're quite useful in that they tell you the activity that we expect to see in the national curriculum. Singing, playing instruments, listening, studying music from across time and eras and styles and genres. But they only go so far. You can't plan the curriculum just by ticking the boxes on the aims. Say, yes, we do singing, yes, we play instruments, yes, we listen to a variety of music, therefore we've got the curriculum. That doesn't do it. What you need to do is go beyond there to look at the content and the national curriculum. And I'm going to share with you now some examples from that content. And there's a reason why the words are in red. Because the content for Key Stage 2, for example, tells you that pupils should be playing and performing in certain contexts using voices with increasing accuracy, with increasing fluency, with increasing control, and with increasing expression. Listening with increasing oral memory. Develop the understanding of the history of music. Those are key words. So in other words, as they move from year 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, we should see their playing of instruments improve sequentially in accuracy, fluency, control, and expression increasingly as they move through those 4 years. The same with singing. That's why it's difficult, isn't it, to say, have the opportunity to play an instrument for one term in year 4. How does that show progression in playing instruments from year 3 to year 6 if they've just got 1.5 term or a term of whole class instrumental? So in other words, it's about the progression and the sequencing. And that's gone to Key Stage 3 now. Because if you look at the content in Key Stage 3, it says the same. Performing and playing confidently, musically fluently, with accuracy and expression. Those things increase as they move from year 7 to year 9. Increasing sophistication in their use of the elements of music, of the building blocks of music. Increasing discrimination, deepening understanding. And it's why when you look at schemes of work that schools give you, you wonder sometimes when they do the blues in year 7 and then 12-bar blues in year 9, and they're using 3 chords in year 7 and they're using the same 3 chords in year 9. Where's the progression? Where's the increase in sophistication in that work? And so we need to think about the curriculum in terms not of ticking the activities, but in terms of thinking about the content and the increasing sophistication of the content. And it's why we say in Ofsted, that it's really important to build your curriculum around components and not composites. And I'll talk about that more in just a moment. Those content paragraphs in the national curriculum show very clearly the need to provide incremental progressive development of 3 areas of pupils' work. Their technical knowledge of how to sing, how to play instruments, their constructive knowledge, how music is built, how it's constructed, and their expressive knowledge, how music over time has been a conduit for human expression. Those 3 pillars are not silos. They're interrelated, and together they lead to musical understanding. And the little heart in the middle there is the musical understanding. That's where it all comes together. We don't separate playing instruments with constructive knowledge or constructive with expressive. It all goes together. Our curriculum is what we call synoptic, a synoptic musical curriculum. So let's have a look at those three pillars of musical learning. When we talk about technical development, we talk about incrementally building the technique of singing, posture, body, projection, control and range, and playing instruments, hand and body, musical control of the instrument. Remembering, of course, these young people are getting older. And particularly in secondary, if you think between the year 7 and year 9, the increasing sophistication of the teenage mind and body, how singing moves with that, how music moves with that. Technical is also incrementally building their technical knowledge of music tech, understanding the music first and the technology as a conduit for the music, and then incrementally knowing and building knowledge of the technical systems for notation or tablature or programming, depending on the music you're working on. With constructive knowledge, we're talking about incrementally learning how music works, scales, chords, keys, systems, forms, structure, incrementally building from year 7 to year 9, from year 1 to year 6, and regularly using that knowledge, increasing knowledge, to deconstruct, analyze, reconstruct, perform, and construct, create. And if you're an English teacher, you'll be familiar with the words deconstruction and reconstruction. Let's go to expressive now. And expressive is all about building, increasing knowledge. You hear that word increasing. It comes all the time, doesn't it? Increasing knowledge of music's provenance, where it comes from, history, culture, social, geography, purpose, meaning. Increasingly understanding how the elements, pitch, dynamic, etc., work together in an interrelated way to give musical expression, and then applying that technical and constructive knowledge with increasing sophistication to give personal musical meaning. How it comes together to give musical understanding. And just a reminder there of those pillars, how they come together. But as I've said before, they are not silos, they're interrelated, and we teach them together. We don't have a technical lesson and a constructive lesson and an expressive lesson. Any music lesson will have all three pillars in. And our job as music teachers is to ensure that our pupils receive good education in all of these dimensions, and we can't shy away from that responsibility. We're not there to facilitate, we're there to teach. I'm going to share a slide with you now I use in training for inspectors, and one of my other roles is to lead on training in Ofsted. And they've had quite a lot of music training, I have to say, over the past year or so. But I also use this with head teachers to explain how this works in practice. It's quite a busy slide, so there's lots to look at and think about. Here's an example of learning to play a C major scale. Now, this shows you the complexities. There are facts to learn, there are technical skills to learn, there's notation to decode, and most importantly, there's the sound pattern to learn and play, apply, and recognize orally. Learning to play a C major scale on the keyboard is what we call a composite task. It involves technical knowledge about which finger pattern to use to play C major scale, where the notes are on the keyboard, technical knowledge to save. It involves some constructive knowledge, what the scale is, ascending, descending, notes on the scale and so on. And it involves expressive knowledge. If you want to play it smoothly, you've got to use the right finger pattern, because that helps you to play it smoothly. And so when we teach, this is a very simple example, but when we teach this, you can see we've got the three different pillars all at work there. They're all important. What's really important though is how we assess that. And I'm going to talk a bit more about assessment in just a moment. In green is good assessment. If you've taught all those components to your pupils, at the end they can say, I can play, or I can use, or I can hear the C major scale fluently from notation, understand what it is that's meaning, you've won. You've actually achieved your target. They've passed. If you say, okay, we've got levels 1 to 8, you get level 1 if you can play 1 note to the scale. You can get level 2 if you play 2 notes to the scale. Level 3 and so on. I've seen it happen. I've seen it at work. Seriously. Or I can describe a scale using words. Doesn't matter if you can't hear one or can't play one, but if you can give me a dictionary definition, then you get a mark. You've passed. Or I can label notes on a stave and I can draw a treble clef. That is not good use of your time. All this micro-assessment that goes on in schools, and I have to say, some schemes of work have that too, is a waste of your time. You should be thinking about the composite task. It's so more important for your young people to be able to hear, recognise, apply, play fluently. If you've done that, you've achieved your target. You've achieved progress. It's why sometimes separating theoretical and practical aspects of music leads to a false divide. You need both of them. There's that little heart again for music understanding. You need both of them. But they're very difficult to teach together, and that needs a teacher. You can do one through worksheets or through online tasks without a teacher, but it's very difficult without a teacher to achieve that composite. That's why it's been difficult the past 2 years for us, isn't it? Because, we've had to teach online and it's been difficult. We recognise that, but we're back now. We're back, and we need to get back to this musical teaching, but the music teacher's at the centre. And then we talk about assessment then. The curriculum is your progression model. If you haven't got a decent curriculum, there's no point assessing it. That's such a simple thing to say, isn't it? But you can assess for all you like, but if your curriculum isn't well structured, isn't teaching the right things, the assessment is meaningless. So if your curriculum is well thought out, well structured, logically sequenced, it sets out those technical, constructive and expressive knowledge, and your pupils learn that knowledge synoptically, musically and effectively, they've made good progress. That's a terrible sentence, and it wouldn't pass QA on Ofsted reports. It's too long, but I mean what I say. So in other words, focus on planning a good music curriculum. Teach it musically and make sure your pupils learn it. If you can show that, if you show us you've got a good, well thought out sequence curriculum, your pupils are learning it effectively, they've made progress. Show us your curriculum, show us what your pupils can do. You've got to be musical yourself. And again, a published book can't do that for you. That's why teachers are so important. So that's what you should do. Isn't that appropriate for you to be performing musically, listening musically, thinking musically, if that's what you want from your pupils? Shouldn't you be doing the same as you want from them? So don't assess the components. Don't try to assess every little bit they do. Don't have an assessment every week. Every 2 weeks, assess the composites. Plan your curriculum and assess the composites. jumping through hoops, ticking a checklist. I can name 1 note, 2 notes, 3 notes on the scale. I can draw a treble clef. That's unnecessary. It takes up too much time and doesn't improve musical understanding. And it's the teacher that's fundamental to good assessment. We don't want to see you micro-assessing. We don't want to see you micro-assessing in schools. So in conclusion, we want to see a well-sequenced incremental curriculum. That's at the heart of music education. We want to see a curriculum that incrementally builds up pupils' technical, constructive and expressive knowledge of music synoptically. You do that, your pupils perform musically as a result, they will make progress, and that's what we want to see. So thank you for listening, and thank you for everything you do in schools, and well done. Thank you.
Am I on? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? I'm just going to do a Q&A if anyone has any questions for Mark. Put your hand up and I'll come and bring you the mic. Anybody?
Sorry. And what kind of allowances or things will be made for the lack of actual being able to perform music properly for the past 18 months if we were online or school restrictions meant we weren't allowed to use any instruments, that kind of thing?
Very good question. First thing to say is to tell us the honest truth about your school. If we come in and we do a deep dive in your school, I won't ask the school's name. I'll take my glasses off so I can't read it. But tell us the situation you've been in. Of course, we're pretty good at looking back and looking forward and working out what's going on in the school. If you had a fantastic curriculum pre-COVID, but you couldn't deliver it, and you're back starting to do it, fine. If the curriculum, for example, if, this may not be your school, but if before COVID you had an arrangement where music, are you secondary or primary? Secondary, both. In secondary, if music was on a carousel and they had one term of music a year for 2 years, and you say, well, the reason is because of COVID. Well, actually, we've got some questions about what happened before COVID and why you're still on the carousel. So we can look beyond that. And I hope you'll talk to the inspector and show them. So we look beyond COVID, before COVID, and then we want to know what you're doing now, because things change. You can do music again. There's some very good guidance from DFE. It was published in July for all subjects that gave some detail about that, about what we could do to help and what you could do to help now. So yes, but talk to us. I've got my glasses on now.
Great, thank you. That was a great question. Right, another one over here.
Hello.
We were wondering what Ofsted might expect. I loved what you were saying about assessment. It's been a bugbear of mine as a primary music lead about what assessment is useful for me. What might that look like, with our evidence of our curriculum, with progression? What might that look? Is that videos? Is it what would you want to see from us to prove what we're doing?
Thank you. We don't want to see data, not at all. I do not want to see spreadsheets. No way. Horrible. We don't want to see photographs either. I was in school 2 weeks ago, and in the early years they showed me a photograph of children playing drums, which proved that children play the drums. No, it doesn't. It proves you took a photograph of children holding drums. So, yeah, recordings are great. Always, it surprises me how few schools make good use of recordings. I'm very old, but when I started teaching, I had a chalkboard and a gramophone player and a cassette tape recorder, and that was it. And I used to have to record on these cassettes, and why not with a pencil and label them with numbers. And now you've got all these iPads and all this MP3 stuff. And do we use it as well as we should do? Do pupils use it? I don't know. Some schools do, some schools don't. But recording's really important. Recording's really important. But also, you know, if we go into a classroom and children are singing 4 parts in year 9, singing 4 parts, clearly something has happened in the past 3 years to get to that stage. It doesn't happen by chance, does it? So it's actually the performance that counts.
Any other questions?
Hi, I just wondered what you think of exercise books in music as evidence. Would you ever want to see them or not really?
What evidence would I get from an exercise book? Maybe a listening log, maybe a record of pieces I've listened to with some key terms in that they've understood. But actually, if they've copied them out and don't actually know them, can't play them, or can't recognise them when, you know, they've written about a ground bass, but they can't actually recognise one when they hear it, what's the point? So, you know, I never ask to see exercise books and music. I always ask to hear recordings, always, just for reference.
Thank you. Any other questions? Probably got time for
There's
one or two more.
Yes.
If you get inspected, would we expect to have a music specialist to come and inspect our department?
No. Deep dives can be done by any inspector. We've trained all of our inspectors. We've got a very rich curriculum training package for all our inspectors. And the music one we did in December last year. I did a science deep dive this week, and it was really interesting. Outstanding, really was outstanding. But inspection isn't about having the answers. Inspection is about answering the questions, and you have the answers. So show us. And remember, a deep dive in music is not an inspection of music. We don't give you a grade. A deep dive in music is looking at the school through the lens of music. So if we go in and we have a conversation with you and you say, I love my subject, but it's so with the head won't let me go in any CPD. I've not had any subject CPD for 3 years. We're not going to blame you for that, but we'll go ahead and we'll say, we've got an issue here about subject CPD. Let's have a look across the school and see if there's an issue with other subjects as well. If your curriculum is brilliantly planned, and we see that, we're going to say music's really good. Is it the same in art and geography on day 2? So we're using you as a... Any other questions? There was one I had actually earlier in the hall about pupil voice and pupil-centred education. And it's a minefield, isn't it? There's a lot of debate about it. But I think we've got to be very careful about our responsibilities. And there's a balance to be had, isn't there, about choosing the music to teach pupils and allowing them to choose the music that they want to perform. And I think, you know, we need to ask ourselves the question about our responsibility as teachers to introduce them to new music and new experiences, new materials. So I think there's a huge debate to be had about that. I've got some anecdotes which I won't tell you now. I'll save those for next time maybe. But I think we need to be very careful that we don't abrogate our responsibility to provide that really good curriculum.
Great, thank you so much. I think that's all we've got time for.
I'm staying around, so if
Yeah.
you want to come and say hello, do. Thank you,
so
Harry.
much. Thanks.
Thank you.